If you cut, first of all, if you cut the throat, after you cut the neck, you cut the spine.
We never claimed it's a painless death for animals. Why are we talking about humans? I don't want to talk about humans. That's not what the discussion is. We never claimed when we slaughter animals, which all civilizations have done since recorded history. We never claimed it's a painless death. It's a necessary evil we have to do. It's just to get them to somehow, be ready for food.
Electrocution is just less painful.
Or be ready as food. Okay.
Yeah, I know,
but this is again a back and forth argument. You can argue no, it causes less pain. I can argue no, not all. Science
really.
doesn't prove everything.
Can
Science recommends.
Science has to be the goat that's getting cut to prove it.
What?
The scientists, they have to become, they have to feel it themselves. If you're not in the shoe of the goat, you can never know how it's for me to have a strawberry. How a strawberry tastes to me.
Technically,
you can never ever. It's subjective.
That experience is subjective.
That experience is personal. Yeah. So
No.
No, that's just
Tomography.
It varies.
No. Okay, 1 second.
Varies
That's
from
the
person
case,
to person.
Can you show love? Yeah. Can you say, okay, here you go, Ali. This is what love looks like.
It's a set of hormones and a neural reaction.
Can you see it?
You can see it if you do a tomography.
Can you see the sentiment, the feeling?
The sentiment is just a word that we use to explain it. It's merely
But can you
a set
see?
of
Can you see the
hormones.
sentiment? Can you actually measure love?
Yes.
Can you actually
Sentiment.
measure love with the
Sentiment.
with the
The
device?
sentiment does not exist per se. What exists is hormones.
Is there any way to measure love
Exactly. That's
for your
subjective.
children, for your wife, for your mother, for your parents?
There's not, because love doesn't
Okay.
exist per se.
Exactly.
What exists is our brain.
Yes.
And
Yes.
reactions in the brain.
Yeah.
And the hormones that are emitted
We
in our
we
blood
accept
system.
all scientists, all scientific research as valid as long as it's valid.
Shouldn't
No,
be,
no, 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 no,
because
no,
there's
no.
a lot of
I'm saying
rubbish.
as long as it's valid.
Yes.
Okay, we accept scientific hypotheses, right? As long as they are done within the boundaries of science, we accept them, and we really appreciate the work of the scientists. At the same time, having said that, we do not make science a criteria to judge truth from falsehood, from good to bad, or other things, for example, right? Science has its place. It is absolutely crucial for us to take science into consideration, especially in this day and age when science has advanced quite a lot, and we have to respect science and scientists. At the same time, there are certain questions science does not answer and cannot answer, because science has a clear definition, it has clear boundaries, there's a philosophy of science, there is a scientific method. So science is defined, limited by its own scopes, right? So science does not, for example, God, people try to make God a question of science. God is not a question of science.
It is. It is because
Okay, God, first of all, let me explain something to you.
Yeah.
Science by default depends on nature, right? Or naturalism. Is that correct? Is that a correct statement?
To a certain extent, yes.
Okay. God is supernatural. God is a supernatural question. God is beyond nature. We never claim that God is within the natural world.
It's just rhetoric, you know.
No. This is how we see God. Okay, if we see God in
That's your opinion.
that light, I mean, this is the opinion of theists. People who believe in God, for example, the Christians are the only exception that God came on earth.
Your opinion doesn't make it true, you know. That's
No problem. I'm acknowledging my opinion doesn't have to be right. What I'm saying, this is how we see God. God is a question of the supernatural. Okay, science has no business there. Science does not indulge in the supernatural. Science cannot, for example, science does not have a view on dreams.
Sorry,
let's
am
say.
I not taking a lot of time? Because I've got time, but like if I'm not...
No.
Okay,
So this is how we see science and the question of God or other supernatural questions. Okay, for example, we believe in, let's say, jinns, demons.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we believe in demons, right? We have our reasons to believe in them, right? Science has nothing to say on demons. Science does not consider the question of demons because it is something supernatural. It is not in the natural world, right? Therefore, science has nothing to say on it. So science is clearly defined, limited to the natural world by naturalism. Is that reasonable?
the problem is that you might be wrong, and you're probably wrong, because
Okay.
the phrase God is supernatural, it's pure rhetoric. You can't. It's just, you know, it's just an expression that has nothing. Whereas science is all about proving and, you know, debating, arguing. And you just say,
Proving based upon what?
Proving based upon evidence.
Good. What evidence? What's the nature of evidence in science? What's the definition of evidence in science? Scientifically speaking,
Yeah, evidence is
applying the philosophy of science, what is evidence?
there are several types of evidence. One
Yes.
is something we can like actually not really see or feel, but measure. You know,
How?
by means, very often by the means of instruments.
What's the nature of evidence? What do you regard evidence? What do you see as evidence?
Well, I told
Does
you
it
something
have
that
to be
you can
empirical?
see. Not necessarily.
Okay.
We can mathematically prove something. Like
Okay.
It's been proven mathematically way before we had instruments that we can't reach the speed of light. And we
Okay.
actually can't. It's been proved empirically, but before that we proved it mathematically. Not
Okay.
really Einstein did.
Right,
but still.
right. Until it was proven empirically,
Yes.
what was the status of it?
We just didn't know.
Okay, so it is empiricism that d- basically decided the fate or the outcome of this particular question, right? So,
It's the last, you know, the last station.
okay,
Yes.
science is something. Science is based upon hypotheses
Yes.
or realities that can be tested, right? That can be assessed, right? That can be put under scrutiny, right?
Yes.
For that, there has to be empirical evidence for the question you are addressing, right? Yes. Science cannot address something which cannot be seen, touched, or felt. Is that clear? Do you agree with that?
It can. It
How?
can.
How?
Well, you know, in Richard Dawkins's book, there is a relatively well-known example of a kettle that is orbiting around the sun, as far as I remember. Like, we can say, well, this kettle is supernatural. It cannot be observed. It cannot be. We can't feel it. We can't touch it. We can't do anything. But there is, you know, there is a kettle. Just deal with it. And we can say.
Okay. How? Why do we have to accept that?
That's the matter of opinion. It's the same.
Okay,
We can replace kettle
what
with
is the
God.
evidence for that particular opinion? The evidence.
None.
Well, obviously, when someone proposes a theory, I think there is a blue monkey flying around in the heavens,
Yes.
50,000 miles away from here. For me to state that, you will question my assertion. You will question my claim.
Yes.
Evidence, right?
Yeah.
Evidence means something solid you can test, right? You can assess, you can test, and you can come to a conclusion.
Yes.
Whether my assertion is true or false, right? So, how would we assess that claim? It's a
There's no
claim
way-
that there's a blue
no-
monkey flying
there's
around.
No way, there's no way to assess it. The replace-
Scientifically?
Yes.
Scientifically? Thank you. We're agreeing now. We're agreeing.
Yeah.
Likewise, theists claim there is a transcendental being who created the heavens and the earth, who transcends our natural realm. Therefore, because science cannot test the question of God, cannot assess it, cannot even apply its understanding of evidence to it, therefore, God question is not a question of science.
Two comments.
Yeah. Do you understand what I just said?
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously.
Okay.
First of all, the matter of.
Do you
religion-
agree with that,
the
Sheikh
matter
Mansur?
of- The matter of religion can actually be assessed because we know quite well how religions are born. We know about Mormonism. We know about cargo cults.
Are we moving on to something else now?
No, I'm just telling you that you said that like religion and God cannot be scientifically.
No,
analyzed.
not religion. Some of the religious claims can be put under scrutiny because there could be empirical evidence for that stuff. I'm saying where you cannot find empirical evidence for a
Yes.
notion, for an assertion, for an idea,
Yes.
science has nothing to say on that because science needs evidence to comment, to create a hypothesis or a number of hypotheses. Science needs evidence. If there is no evidence, which is
Simple question.
yeah.
What scientific proof will demonstrate without a shadow of doubt that the Creator exists?
Could you repeat it once again, please?
What scientific proof will you accept that the Creator exists if that was given?
So he's saying, what scientific proof will prove to you that a creator exists? What sort of proof would you
If
need?
it's a scientific question, then there
Yeah.
must be a scientific.
Way.
way to
So,
prove it.
Yes.
If
If it's a
scientists-
question of science.
if scientists will demonstrate conclusively that the hypothesis, the theory that makes most sense is that the one which involves the creator, this is the evidence I will accept.
Such as, what is the nature of the evidence?
Such as, if we were to take all the theories and compare them point by point, and it would be demonstrated that evolutionary theory, other theories explain the origin of life a lot worse than the creator
The
theory.
question is about existence of a creator, not about how the world works. So what sort of scientific proof will make you
The existence of a creator,
make you
because
convinced that the creator exists? What
the,
sort of
the
scientific
nature of the universe is one thing.
Asking proof basically.
Yeah.
What is the proof?
You see, no, let me. The nature of the universe is one thing. That's one question, and the existence of the creator or a creator is another question. What scientific proof would you need to prove the existence of a creator?
Well, didn't I tell you this?
No, you didn't. No, you're talking about the nature of the universe, how universe works, how human origin works. You're talking about these things. We're not talking about the creator yet. So, what scientific proof would we need to prove a creator?
But, well, don't we accept that the creator is the part of the universe?
No, we don't accept that.
Then that does really make sense, because there's nothing, according to the definition of the universe, there's nothing outside of the universe.
So you now agree with that man that it's not a scientific question. It is not within the scope of science to talk about the creator.
Thank you.
It's not in the universe.
Is that now, because now you've understood my...
That's what I wanted. That was my second point. Doesn't it?
Just because the mic cannot hear Mansur. Now, are we in agreement now that having discussed these few points, we agree that based upon this discussion, God is not a question of science?
If we agree that,
Because we believe God is beyond the universe.
well, then yes.
Okay, we agree.
Now I'm arriving to the second point.
Right.
Doesn't it sound absurd that we were talking about a kettle in the sky or a monkey 50,000 kilometers away, and you said, can you prove it? No, you can't. Okay. You could replace a kettle, with God, and the meaning would remain the
Still
same.
not a question of science.
Yes.
It's a question of philosophy.
But doesn't it sound absurd? Doesn't it sound absurd to you? We talk about a flying kettle, and we actually compare
Question
flying,
is not
a
about
flying
absurdity. Question is simple.
No, this is a
Either the
question.
creator
It's not a
exists
question
or
of
he doesn't
science.
exist. And is it a scientific
We're
question?
still in agreement. You're right. Absolutely. One can claim anything is out there. Absolutely. But is it a question of science? We have already demonstrated that God is not a question of science. Now it is a question of philosophy. Philosophically, by reasoning, by intelligent reasoning, we can show you the philosophical reasons as to why God exists. Because science does not have the scope to reach there. It stops. Where empirical evidence stops, science stops. Where naturalism stops, science stops, right? It doesn't go beyond that, right? For that reason, God is a question of philosophy. So from philosophy, from using arguments, philosophical arguments, we can show you why God exists, why he has to exist. So that's a different... Now again, talking about a blue monkey flying 50,000 miles away from here is a question of philosophy. It's not a question of science. Philosophically, if I can show you reasonably well that there is a monkey 50,000 miles away from here flying around in space, if I can give you reasons for that, then you can either accept my reasons or reject those reasons.
Well, philosophy is weak. Philosophy.
No, it's not
doesn't
weak.
prove things.
Philosophy is at the core of science. Without the philosophy of science, you do not have science.
Well, philosophy.
If you remove philosophy from science, there is no science. Do you agree?
Yes,
Even
we
science
do,
has.
yes.
So therefore, then philosophy is.
You know why the reason why philosophy exists even in science,
Because science needs it.
No.
Without philosophy of science, science wouldn't make sense.
No, because reality is objective.
Right.
It doesn't really matter what we think of things. They are just what they are.
Based upon the philosophies we have chosen to follow.
The thing is, the problem is that we are, as the machines that analyze the world, we are also biased. And the only way we can kind of tame this bias is by the means of philosophy. But that's something we have to deal with it. And fortunately, science is not all about philosophy.
I never said that.
Can I ask you a question on the very questions I've got? I think we just went around.
Yes.
You see, I want to dismantle an understanding from atheists.
Yes.
Because I don't think they really... Now, come close to you. Okay.
No, I'll sit there. I need rest.
No.
Please carry on.
Okay, let's keep it there. You see, atheists often tell us
Yes.
that there are no real evidence to believe in a creator. The reason they are atheists is because of the absence of solid evidence, right?
Yes.
Because of the absence of evidence. Now, if I were to ask any atheist, what evidence would satisfy you that the creator exists?
Well, I told you you were not happy with it.
Can you repeat that again?
I told you my evidence would be okay. God obviously has something to do with the with creation of life. If he's the creator, he has something to do with the creation of life. Yes, am I right?
Yeah.
So now we're back to the question of the creation of life. If we accept the definition of God as someone who created the life, that's one of his functions. Then we would have to look at the theories of origin of life. And if most scientists, were to prove conclusively, without many doubts, that the theory that involves the creator, the creationism, is the most solid theory, then I would probably change my mind. However, right now that's not the case because evolutionary theory is a lot stronger than the creation theory.
It's just a theory out of many. How is that? How?
No. It's
There are
the most
many models of how life began.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
evolutionary is obviously the best.
Hang on. Matter, right? Is matter eternal in your worldview? Let's put the atheist in their comfort zone, or take it out of their comfort zone. Matter existed before life, according to the scientific understanding that we have today. Is matter here eternally existing, or did it have a beginning of existence?
It is unknown. It is unknown. According, like most physicists believe that matter will gradually devolve. So molecules will break into atoms. Atoms will break into.
That's the outcome.
subatomic parts.
But the origin of matter. I mean, let's put it this way: existence, could it come from non-existence?
Yes.
What is non-existence?
Non-existence. Look, like we've got hydrogen, we've got oxygen, but the water does not exist yet. Now we do a chemical reaction.
Yep.
Bam, we've got water. So
Did it come from non-existence?
yes,
No, it came from hydrogen and oxygen.
but water as water did not exist.
No. The water, which is existence, it came from existence, which is hydrogen and oxygen. So can you give me an example where existence arises from non-existence? There was nothing.
What is non-existence in your opinion?
Ah, good question. So this is what atheists understand. This is where Professor Lawrence needs to revise his book title and to say the universe from something in his next edition. This is an advice to Professor Lawrence Krauss. He's a very smart gentleman. So non-existence is simply a way of defining the absence of any existence. Absence of gravity, absence of quanta, absence of fluctuations, absence of energy fields, absence of everything. That's non-existence. So can non-existence in that definition give rise to existence like us?
Yeah, if I were a scientist, I'd probably give you a more detailed answer. But I personally don't know. But if you want to,
I've defined what non-existence is.
I know. I personally don't know.
And which
whether it can-
scientist do you think will answer that existence can come from non-existence?
Scientists don't operate with such,